sudden return of the population provided the necessary energy for the emergence to begin.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be how Marvel's Eternals movie is helping set up the core X-Men characters and mutants in the MCU, explain how they can just suddenly start showing up in the next few years before the new X-Men solo movie that Kevin Feige has said that they're working on, and they'll be adults. There's a deep connection between the Eternals, the X-Men characters just in general that goes back to their origin story, and the Eternals trailer references some of those plot elements, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There'll be a lot more Eternals footage that'll start releasing after the Shang-Chi movie comes out. During my big Eternals trailer videos and Easter eggs that I posted the last couple of days, I explained how some of the major conflicts of the Eternals movie are basically the Hulk's Infinity Gauntlet snap during Avengers Endgame, bringing everyone back in the universe, unleashes such a massive amount of cosmic energy that it was enough to complete the maturation process of this new celestial that's growing inside planet Earth. The emergence that they're referring to during the trailer footage. A new Eternal emerging from its celestial cocoon. That's what this huge structure Cersei is looking at is in the trailer. There's a scene that looks like the meteorite crashing to Earth when Salma Hayek's Ajax character is explaining this to Icarus, and they show you the origin of the MCU, the Big Bang, all the other Celestials being created by eternity in the moments after the Big Bang. That's what this scene is. The meteorite sounds like it's the celestial egg, so to speak, crashing to Earth to begin its gestation process over millions of years. While that's happening, it slowly absorbs background cosmic radiation like the kind Scarlet Witch uses to power her chaos magic, the same type of energy that the Infinity Stones give off, the same energy that was present at the Big Bang when the other Celestials were created. And this new Celestial just grows and grows until it eventually becomes larger like the other members of the Celestial host that we see in the trailer, like Arishem the Judge and Jemiah the Analyzer. They are massive and super powerful, so it just takes a long-ass time for them to grow. The only way to accelerate that process is to just feed them more background cosmic energy from the Infinity Stones. So this is where we get to our connection between what's happening here, mutants, and the core X-Men characters. Mutants are a little bit different in the MCU in that in order to be considered a mutant, you need to be born with your powers, and typically you have to be able to express your power, generate your power from your own body in some way. Your genetic code has to fundamentally be different in some way than regular humans. They reference some of this during WandaVision. Like Monica Rambeau's genetic code gets rewritten basically, mutates her DNA by passing through the hex so many different times. There was a lot of talk on WandaVision about whether or not Billy and Tommy were the first true mutants in the MCU, or if Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver qualified as the first mutants, because both of them were born with their powers, and the Mind Stone just unlocked Scarlet Witch's full potential. But she was already born with her chaos magic abilities. Technically, that does qualify her as a mutant. The only reason why the MCU movies didn't acknowledge that earlier was because of the legal rights issue with Fox in real life controlling the X-Men characters and Marvel not being able to use the term mutant in any of its movies until they bought Fox in 2019. But regardless of that, Billy and Tommy are still both mutants in the MCU. Scarlet Witch used her chaos magic to create them, to create two new mutants, and here's the connection between what she did with chaos magic and the celestial that's growing inside the cosmic egg that we see during the Eternals trailer. It's feeding on the same background cosmic radiation of the Infinity Stones from the snaps and the same energy that Wanda was using to power her chaos magic when she was changing everything inside the hex. The same energy that was given off by the Big Bang that Eternity used to create the original celestial host like Arishem the Judge here. The difference during the Big Bang, though, is that there was so much of that energy present that it was enough to create many Celestials, and there's just way less of that energy at this point in history when they're trying to mature this new Celestial. Then sort of bringing it back around to WandaVision, connecting this, it's all connected. The producers of WandaVision said that in the MCU, the way that they're explaining chaos magic, that it is magic of pure creation. So when you talk about mutants in the MCU, the Eternals movie is kind of doing something similar to what Wanda was doing on WandaVision, explaining how the growing Celestial absorbs all this cosmic radiation over time, but in turn, while that's happening, it also gives off cosmic radiation. Like Celestials are super powerful, even one that's growing, it is bursting with the same kind of cosmic energy that the Infinity Stones give off. And while that's happening, during human evolution, the cosmic radiation that the Celestial is giving off inside Earth slowly starts mutating humans' DNA to create the X gene. They got into this idea in the comics, but just a slightly different explainer. It was celestial blood instead of just background cosmic radiation. So what they're doing during the Eternals movie is extremely similar to the comic book explainer. But fast forward to present day, you theoretically have many people all over the Earth randomly with the X gene, but up to present day, in most cases, the X gene has been dormant, explaining why you haven't seen reports of tons of teenagers running around shooting lasers out of their eyes. This is also the same way that you can explain older mutants like Apocalypse or even Wolverine have been around this whole time, because Wolverine was born in 1832 in the comics. He's almost 170 years old during the events of the first X-Men movie. This Celestials Eternals explainer makes it really easy to say that some of these mutants' powers did manifest across history, like there were actual mutants around, but those individuals either were able to stay off the radar or their existence was kept secret by powerful people in the MCU. It's all a giant conspiracy. They even got into this idea recently in the comics with the big X-Men reboot. Professor X, for instance, most powerful telepath on planet Earth. During that storyline, Professor X learns that they're stuck in a time loop, like we talk about Kang the Multiverse War, He Who Remains, in the time loop of the Sacred Timeline. Professor X learns about this and learns that mutants, X-Men, are always destined to die out, to be killed off, so he calls an audible and says, "We're changing the game," and he basically removes memory of mutants from everyone's minds on planet Earth so that nobody knows that they exist. But in the MCU, at the end of the day, the answer is still the same. Mutants, for instance, have always been here, we just haven't known about them till now. It's the exact same explainer for the Eternals characters. They've been here this whole time, but this is why we haven't known about them till now. And it's all because of what happened with Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and the snaps. It's the same thing they did in the early Marvel phases. After the first Avengers movie came out, they used the plot from Avengers with the Chitauri invasion and how that affected Earth as the basis for a lot of the plot of the future movies. Like the reason why Iron Man inadvertently winds up leading to the creation of Ultron was because of what happened with the Chitauri invasion.
Anybody remember when I carried a nuke through a wormhole?
No, it's never come up.
Save
No,
New York?
Never heard that.
Recall that?
So a lot of the big twists of Marvel Phase 4 are built on the backs of all these Infinity Gauntlet snaps that happened the past couple of years in Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. But all this cosmic energy is unleashed, activating people's X genes across planet Earth so that in the next couple of years, you start to hear more reports of people running around with weird powers. Now that's just one way that they'll probably explain mutants and X-Men in the MCU, because the multiverse is such a huge storytelling trope that they're leaning into. Some of these new major characters will also probably come from alternate universes, which gets into the events of Loki, the Kang Multiverse War, Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, even Spider-Man No Way Home. And even though it's a little further off, Ant-Man 3 Quantumania. All those movies will be the next step in revealing mutants, X-Men characters, and actually we should also now add Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever to that list because of what they're doing, introducing Namor and the Atlanteans to the MCU, and he will have been here this whole time. But there is a cool connection between Kang the Conqueror, who we just saw in Loki, and Apocalypse. Kang's first appearance in the comics was as Rama Tut. So in Fantastic Four number 19, he travels back to ancient Egypt, sets himself up as a pharaoh, calls himself Rama Tut, but eventually, once he gets bored with that, decides to go to a different time period, he sets up Apocalypse as his successor. That's also why they included the Great Sphinx and the Great Pyramid Easter eggs during Loki Episode 5, just as a reference to that part of Kang's history. Just in terms of that new X-Men movie coming out, Kevin Feige has said that they haven't cast any of the new core X-Men characters like Wolverine yet, but given all the movies that they've already announced, including Deadpool 3 and Avengers 5, which Kevin Feige just confirmed this past week, they've got so many movies coming out that they wouldn't be able to release the new X-Men movie before 2024. So what's probably going to wind up happening is that they'll just use the next Avengers movie, Avengers 5, as a sort of focal point to set the stage for the new X-Men solo movie. Like both those movies will happen around the same time and they'll be heavily connected. But by that time, we'll probably have met at least a couple of the core X-Men characters in other people's big movies. I know there's all kinds of questions about legacy actors coming back, like will Hugh Jackman ever come back as a version of Old Man Logan Wolverine? Will Patrick Stewart ever come back? Most of them are saying no. Like Hugh Jackman, he's even gone as far to say that Kevin Feige has not contacted him about coming back, which I do not believe at all. I do believe that there's been some discussion behind the scenes about finding a way to have him cameo in some future project. But when they do get up to a new version of Wolverine in the MCU, it will be a new actor. Like the new main version of Wolverine will be somebody different. I have a feeling they'll let Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool character just joke a lot about that kind of stuff when we get to the new Deadpool movies in the MCU. So everyone let me know in the comments, what kind of Easter eggs for mutants are you hoping to see in the Eternals movie? I know everyone's hoping for a Galactus post-credit scene of some kind, since there are so many Celestials and big cosmic characters in that movie. I'm not expecting a ton of Galactus Easter eggs until they release their new Fantastic Four movie, which sounds like right now is going to be released during 2023 at some point. We'll see that a long time before we see the new X-Men movie. But there's a bunch of really big stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'll be doing some more Shang-Chi videos once that movie comes out. My What If Episode 3 video will post on Wednesday just like normal. And there are even rumors that a Spider-Man No Way Home trailer might get released next week, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. So if we get any kind of Spider-Man footage, of course I will do a whole bunch of videos about it. Everyone click here for my full Eternals trailer breakdown and Easter eggs, and click here for my other new Eternals video and footage. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.